מאוד שמח לפתוח בעצם את הפאנל המקצועי בהשתתפות בכירי התעשייה משלב המכרה ועד לריטיילרים. את הפאנל ינחה ויוביל אבי קרביץ מקבוצת רפפורט, והפאנל יתקיים בשפה האנגלית. אבי, please.
תודה. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for joining us. My name is Avi KRAVITZ. I'm the senior analyst and news editor for Rapaport News. I'd like to thank the Israel Diamond Exchange for hosting this panel and putting together such an esteemed group of people from the industry. And it's a timely discussion because the traceability and provenance issue across the supply chain is a topic that's garnered a lot of attention and headlines in the last 2 to 3 years. And the industry seems to be finding its footing on this topic, even if it's considered somewhat of a late bloomer. And sorry, I'm gonna stand up for the introduction so that you can all see me, and request some silence. I hope you've had a successful show, and it's a great sign that there's good trading going on. But this issue of traceability in the industry has, for the industry, it's been a late bloomer on this topic. As other industries have been involved in this discussion for many years now. But it can also be argued that we were a first mover in the source verification issue. Already in the year 2000, the diamond trade was grappling with the question of how can we assure consumers that their diamonds are kosher. That was the year that the first Kimberley process meeting took place, and that led to a certification program that was designed to guarantee that a rough diamond did not finance conflict. Shh. Thank you. That a rough diamond didn't finance conflict in the classic definition of a conflict diamond. But as the discussion evolved, it soon became apparent that the Kimberley process, with its limited definition of a conflict diamond, didn't provide all the necessary guarantees to protect the industry from a potential consumer backlash on other problematic issues. What about diamonds from countries or companies that had questionable human rights records, or diamonds that were used to finance terror or foster money laundering? And what happens to the diamond after the rough certification, as it moves into the manufacturing sector and into the dealer market, where it changes hands so much? How can we provide that guarantee that the diamond maintains its ethical integrity across the diamond supply chain? And so these questions have broiled in the last decade, and the discussion has matured so that in the past 2 to 3 years, we've seen that a number of solutions are being offered. In fact, it appears that there's a race for market share has heated up in the diamond traceability space, with service providers and industry insiders nudging their way into the field as more retailers, and especially brands, dealers, manufacturers, and miners recognize the need for it and added value that these programs bring. So today we have representatives from each of these sectors in the diamond supply chain, including the mining sector, manufacturer, the Bourses, the dealer market, regulators, and service providers to explore these issues. So I'd like to take a minute to introduce our panel. Firstly, Ernie Blom is the president of the World Federation of Diamond Bourses. Thank you for joining us, Ernie.
ALEXEY TIKHONOV, the head of projects for strategy and analytics at Alrosa.
David Block, welcome, is the CEO of Sarin Technologies. Ofer Gur is the diamond controller, the Mfaker for the Israel Economy Ministry. And EMANUEL NANDAR is a manufacturer who is a partner at Andre Messika Diamonds, Namibia, with their factory in Windhoek, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So over the next 45 minutes or so, we are going to explore some of the considerations that are shaping the debate around source verification. Is it enough to disclose the country of origin, or do we need to go more micro to a mine of origin in our disclosures? Is full traceability even possible given how often a diamond changes hands along the supply chain? And is the trade being too pedantic in its source verification ambitions? Whereas perhaps the consumer isn't asking the question, where does my diamond come from, as much as we think they are. So, David, I'd like to start with you, given that Sarin has been at the forefront, really, of the traceability, the move towards traceability, and has its Diamond Journey program that you're offering to trade and retailers. Let's start with the question, what in your view is driving the trade's move towards traceability?
Hi, thank you, Avi, and hi, everyone. In the end, the need for traceability is not something that is unique to the diamond industry. We see this trend throughout different industries, from coffee to clothes, and in that way, the diamond industry is not unique in any way in this trend towards understanding the origin of the diamond or the product, and not only the origin, but how it moves through the supply chain. So I don't think we're inventing anything that's unique to the diamond industry. We're just joining or being part of a global trend in different industries. And in the end, that's all driven by the consumer, the retailer and the consumer who drives that demand. And as we see a new generation of consumers, whether we talk a lot about the millennials and Generation Z, that's driven by them. They're looking for more sustainable products, understanding where their product comes from, understanding the supply chain, and feeling comfortable with it. So that's something where it's driven mainly by the consumer and the retailer, not necessarily by the midstream or the service providers or even the producers.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's been a lot of activity in the midstream on this issue, and that's why it seems that it's very much a trade-driven initiative, and we've seen a number of solutions that are being offered. From Sarin's Diamond Journey, there's a Tracer initiative, the GIA program, Alrosa has its program, and there are a number of others. Is it problematic that there are so many solutions that are being provided to the industry? Should we not have one solution that provides that need and maybe simplifies the whole traceability issue in front of the consumer?
So from a consumer perspective, I would say yes, the answer is definitely yes. There should be a single solution in the eyes of the consumer, or from the consumer's perspective or the retailer's perspective. Unfortunately, the world isn't so simple, and you have a number of different solution providers that are looking to provide such solutions. My hope is that eventually there will be more of a cooperation in providing the consumer and the retailer with some kind of a unified solution in the end that may be based on different technologies or solution providers. But I think at this point in time, the players are going to move forward, each one providing a different solution, each one having its advantages and disadvantages. And I hope that it will, at some point, either integrate to one another or communicate with one another in order to make, in the end, the retail and the consumer's life more simple.
Right. That would be the hope. ALEXEY, as the largest producer of rough diamonds by volume in the market, Alrosa seems very involved in this issue and is participating in many of these programs. And the company has also developed its own program for your in-house polished in particular. What has been Alrosa's approach to this traceability issue?
Hi everyone. Avi, thanks for the question. It's actually very simple. We as a producer, as a miner of the rough stones, we go where the demand goes. Today we see that the end consumer is much more sophisticated than he was yesterday. We see that the demand is being created for more sophisticated product that the diamond industry is creating. So that is not simply a diamond, but it should be a diamond which is conflict-free. It should be a diamond which was responsibly sourced, and along the value chain there was no violation of human rights, etc. And actually, when it comes to mining of our diamonds, Alrosa is all of that. So effectively for us, all of the tracing instruments or tracing technology for us is means to deliver all of that message regarding the way Alrosa mines all of these goods through these systems. So basically you can call it tracing as in like an enabling technology to deliver all of that good that our company is doing.
But as a mining company, why bother? Your job is to sell rough diamonds. You're not selling to the consumer.
Yeah, that's right. But actually, our job is not about selling roughs. We have two key kind of elements which we have to juggle with. First one is using our mining licenses to source the product and then to enter into relationships with the market to deliver the kind of product that's requested by the market. So today, we of course putting all of the efforts to mine the diamonds efficiently, but today we're also letting the partnerships with our clients and with our clients together, we are trying to deliver specifically the product that is required by the market. And we just believe that the requirement for that product has changed a little bit, has shifted.
Right. Well, I guess it's a trickle-down effect coming from retail, but it has to start at its root, which would be at the mining level. And I would imagine that the tricky part comes as we move further up the supply chain. And so, Emmanuel, as a manufacturer, who you have a factory in Namibia, and you're sourcing diamonds from De Beers, unaggregated diamonds from De Beers, meaning that on your invoices you have it's stated that it's Namibian diamonds.
Namibian only.
Namibian
only, and therefore only sea-mined diamonds, ocean-mined diamonds.
Right.
There's no mine actually in Namibia.
Right.
All the diamonds come from the sea.
So why is traceability important to you, and what are some of the challenges that you as a manufacturer face to provide this traceability?
I'll answer the first question. I started my career 25 years ago as a diamond polisher, and since then my first year as a diamantier were erased in supplying an improved product, a product in higher quality. I think that in the last 20 years in luxury goods, what the diamond industry, diamond manufacturing industry, the steps it did in order to give a better quality diamond is much more than other luxury industries. The progress we did, also thanks to technology and other aspects, but a lot thanks to efforts that each one in this industry did. But I think that we left behind human desire. The human desire to know when he buys luxury products, where is the diamond, where is the product coming from? In many luxury industries, actually the origin of the product is a strong selling point. Italian clothing, French perfumes, German cars. And the diamond industry never exploited this ability to name its diamonds and say where is it coming from. And please buy it not only because it's GIA XXX, but also because it's a special diamond that comes from Russia, comes from South Africa, comes from Namibia. Now you ask about the challenges.
Yeah.
For me, the whole process was a big, deciding to enter this path was a big sacrifice, because suddenly I cannot buy every piece of rough that is presented to me. Before this decision, every rough diamond with a Kimberley certificate was legitimate, and at the right price I would buy it. Now suddenly I feel like someone whose doctor has ordered him a very strict diet, and I will not buy rough diamonds that I don't have a very strong proof of where do they come from. So my supply is limited at the moment, quite limited, but I don't see it as, it is a challenge, but on the other hand, it's an opportunity. I don't think today for a manufacturer having a huge supply is necessarily an advantage.
Right, right. So it creates an exclusivity in a way to the market, and I'd like to come back to that issue a bit later, because I think it's a very important topic within this discussion. But your point is taken that luxury is moving in this direction. I think the diamond industry has always seems to have had the perception that it's very difficult to because the diamond changes hands so often, that it's very difficult to effectively bring about this traceability. So Ernie, how do the Bourses approach this issue? As there are many dealers in the Bourses, and is it possible for everyone to participate in traceability programs, given that there is a limited supply that can be traced at the moment?
Thank you, Avi. Thank you for that question. Let me start off by saying that we as a World Federation firmly believe in the provenance, in the supply chain integrity. We firmly believe in it. However, what we must understand, or what the industry must understand, is that when you implement something, it has to be able to be done by each and every member anywhere in the world. So you can't just have a selected few people doing a traceability, and there's creating an expectation from the consumer and the public out there that every diamond in the world can be traced. And I believe that, yes, we will get to the point where every diamond can be traced eventually, but I don't think we're there now. And until such time as that I can guarantee to each and every member, no matter where they are in the world, that their diamonds that they have are traceable, I don't think that we should create that expectation from the consumer that this is a norm at the moment, because it's not. So
it's really up to the at the moment to the brands that are adopting this and pushing the conversation forward, and so in the interest of not excluding certain suppliers in the industry, one would want to manage those expectations, as you said.
Yeah. I would say yes, that is correct. I think that maybe, and with all due respect to the miners and that, which they are trying to do the correct thing, and Saran is also trying to do the correct thing, but we have to look at the industry as a whole. We can't look at just the individual mining company or individual provenance company. I have to look at each and every one of my members in 29 bourses around the world, and each and every one of those members must have the ability to be able to implement a traceability schedule before we say to the world out there, this is what the norm is. It's not the norm at the moment. It's a selected few that has the privilege of doing it, and it's only on a selected few stones. What about the hundreds of thousands of carats, of half caraters, 1 caraters, etc.? That's impossible to trace now. It will come eventually, and we'll work towards that, but it's not implementable now.
Right. I've got a feeling that David has an opinion on that, and really all the panelists should feel free to respond to any points that are made as we go along.
So actually, I think it's the other way around. It's the world telling us that we need to do this, and it's not going to happen in a day, or even a month, or even a year. It's going to take time. It's going to be done gradually. It's not going to happen to all diamonds instantaneously. It will start with certain categories, maybe certain brands. But it's not, I think the diamond industry is not the one that's leading this. it's the consumer. The more we realize that this is something that is coming as a demand from the consumer, and that if maybe they have an opportunity to buy another product which is not a diamond jewelry or gemstone that they are comfortable with, they will buy that. So we're not competing with one another, I think. We're competing with other industries for the consumer's dollar. And this is, I think, a message coming from the consumer saying to us, we need to get this done, we need to do it. And we don't need to do it tomorrow. We can do it gradually, and we need to find the ways how to do that. So it's not that we need to come to the world and say we're ready. It's the world telling us you need to get ready.
Alexey?
Yeah, also on our end, what we are doing today, I completely agree with you that actually the end demand should come from the retail side. But we have a job to do as a mining company, and our clients, they have a job to do. So what we are doing is we are working with our clients already today to make sure that we're well prepared for the time the demand comes. So take, for example, our digital tenders story that we are doing at Alrosa right now for the past couple of months. So we're scanning a lot of stones. It's over 1,000 stones today, which we've sold at open auctions. So our clients come to us, they buy these stones, and these are all of the stones that are tracing enabled. So basically, when the clients buy these stones on digital tenders from us, they know that they have the traceability feature embedded into it, which can be unlocked if the retailer wishes so.
Yeah, please don't get me wrong, gentlemen. I fully buy into the traceability. I'm not against the product. I think it's great, and I think it's got a huge future. But what I need to make sure is that each and every one of my members around here today and around the world can also have the same. You speak about your clients. Haven't you got 70, 80, 100 clients? What about the other thousands of clients or members that I have out there that I need to make sure that they can be part and parcel of it? And that's the only reason that I'm saying we might be a bit too soon. We have to do it, and we have to start somewhere. But I think that the expectation created in the minds of the consumer will actually do us more harm in the short term than it will in the long term, because we cannot guarantee, or each one and every one of my members cannot guarantee that they can prove where the stone has come from at this point in time.
Right, and Ernie, you mentioned to me before that the WFDB has adopted in principle the concept of traceability that you're sort of assessing the market as it develops.
Yes, that we are, yeah.
Okay, great. Off here, we've spoken about the challenges of traceability, and it's clear to our panel, to our fellow panelists, the benefits that they get from it and the market in general. But as a regulator, how do you approach this topic, and what benefits do you see for your view of the market in this area?
First of all, I was very encouraged to hear that this is indeed the way that eventually the industry is going to work upon. Because for us as a regulator, of course, it will make our life so much easier. Usually it meets us in two separate subjects. First of all, the issue of Kimberley. Israel, of course, is a member of the Kimberley process, and we have, of course, to make sure that the diamond that we are dealing with are indeed Kimberley safe. And I must admit that these days, if I will be gentle, I would say that we are still not working in the most, let's say, advanced methods. Okay, we still use the same printed certificate, physical printed certificate. This is because this is the network. I think we still have a long way to go, and it is clear to see that the industry is far ahead of us, and that's good, because I think that eventually we're going to go in this path. I know that Russia already started to work with its own internal Kimberley digital certificates. Brazil also started. Of course, the digital certificate is important if you can make sure that there is a connection between the diamond and the certificate, and Israel also, you know, we see ourselves as the startup nation, of course, so we are also going to go on this path. And I hope that in 2020, this year, we're going to have a first pilot in order to make sure that we're also going to have this kind of provenance and traceability, because again, it will make our life so much easier using the technology instead of still dealing with the Excel files and printing the certificates, and this is so like 20 years ago.
Right. And firstly, thank you for that exclusive scoop. It's an interesting development, and I think it will aid the trade's ability to provide traceability further along the pipeline if we have that Kimberley process certificate digitized. So I think that's a very interesting and welcome development for the trade. And I understand that Russia is holds the chairmanship of the Kimberley process this year. And therefore, it's encouraging that Russia has taken the lead, and it would be an important move for Israel, a trading center like Israel, to follow suit. So at this point, and maybe we should have started on this, but David, I think it's worth exploring the practical elements of traceability, and it's easy to get lost in the jargon. You know, we throw in terms like blockchain and digital ledger, and even the term traceability itself is somewhat technical and vague for the layman. So could you spend a few minutes sort of explaining in layman's terms the options that are available to the trade and the different models that have been developed in the traceability space?
Yeah, sure. So, and I'll connect it to a comment that you made a minute ago. So basically, traceability is having information about the diamond as it goes down the pipeline, all the way from the producer and right down to the consumer at the retail level. There's no one definition of what that traceability is, what information is needed. And I think that's something that will evolve over time, the type of information that is required for traceability. If I say a few words about blockchain and digital ledgers, in the end, that is a method of storing information. Blockchain or digital ledger does not create traceability. It just holds information regarding the diamond as it passes through the pipeline. So it could be a part of a traceability solution, but it's not necessarily a traceability solution. You mentioned that connecting between the physical and the information, and that I think is the most critical part of traceability, and it's actually the most difficult challenge for our industry. Because a diamond, as it comes from the mine and goes down to consumer, transforms from a rough diamond into a polished diamond. So you're not just tracking an object, you're tracking an object that is actually changing and transforming as it goes down the pipeline. So how do you track such an object? So you can use different methods. One is declarations. Each party along the pipeline can declare information about that diamond at the different stages of the pipeline, put it in a blockchain, and you have so-called a traceability solution. The problem is that you have different parties that maybe have conflicts of interest, that maybe have different reasons to provide different levels of information. It's declarable information, it's not verifiable information. So we believe that in order to provide a true traceability solution, you need to be able to have verifiable information based on data that doesn't come from the entities along the pipeline, but comes from technology, where there is no ability to manipulate or change the information. So that's what a lot of what we've been focusing on is creating the technology to be able to collect that data that is verifiable and can be collected right from the mine all the way down to the consumer.
And so when the midstream, a manufacturer or dealer wants to adopt a traceability program, they have the option to work with a service provider such as Seren or Tracer or any other. The GIA program is another example. Or or perhaps they have their ability to develop their own program. Is that something that's happening?
They could develop their own program. The problem is that then you would have an endless amount of different solutions, where the retailer needs something that's fairly uniform. In the end, the retailer is dealing with the consumer and cannot, for every diamond, have something that has totally a different traceability program. So this is, I think, one of the reasons that there are service providers. You mentioned a number of the main players in the traceability segment that utilize existing capabilities in order to track the diamond as it goes down the pipeline.
Okay, and we mentioned before that at the moment, it seems there's a limited number of companies and even diamonds that can have this traceability. And so, Alexey, my question for you is, are we shifting to a segmented market? Are we reaching a point where certain companies can provide that traceability and that becomes one market? And how does this translate to pricing?
Yeah. I don't think that today we are reaching this point anywhere near, frankly speaking, because there is no tracing product on the market today which can be easily accessible. I believe that neither of these beautiful tables have any of the tracing product available to be bought. Correct me if I'm wrong. But shorter term, I mean, maybe medium term, I believe there would be some sort of divergence between a tracing enabled stones and tracing disabled stones. Mm-hmm. But then what I believe is this would become a new industry standard, the tracing enabled stone. So your question was regarding the premiums. What I believe is the premiums would accumulate not at the level of a rough diamond, but rather at the level of a polished diamond. The reason for that is because tracing is not about the country of origin, it's not about the provenance, it's not about where it came from, it's about the story that you can create around a diamond. So what I also believe is that if you properly trace every diamond in the pipeline and you do that for some time, the retailer can create new storytelling agenda, new story, create, you can call it like, I don't know, like the 5th C, right? The C being as a customer experience, you know. So if the retailers can use all of this data around the stones to better use, like to tell a story about that specific diamond, then I believe that there is premiums to be accumulated at the level of polished goods.
Emmanuel, as a manufacturer who has a brand that taps the source verification, are you seeing that retailers are prepared to pay a premium for those transparently sourced diamonds?
Look, I want to define the term premium. Today, we must face reality. At top quality, so many on websites or in stores, so many equal diamonds at top quality are presented one next to the other. And I think that the 5th C, like Alexey mentioned, is the only answer I can give a retailer when he comes to me and asks me, why are you charging 5% more than that company online? So already the fact that I have an answer because the diamond is coming from that origin, while other diamonds cannot tell you where is the origin, is already enough differentiation to justify the fact why am I not the cheapest? And always someone will be cheaper.
Right.
Now, please let me add that I do think that the origin is the most important thing. Why is the origin important thing? And it is premium driving. Because actually the origin, the country of origin, once you are able to put inside your communication and your customers' communication, not only the story of the diamond, but the story of the region, the story of the country where the diamond came from, it adds a lot a bright story to the fact that you're trying to sell a natural diamond. Before you tell this story, the term natural diamond has no meaning. After you show nature and the same nature where you prove that your diamond came from, so then the word natural suddenly becomes something very bright and interesting, and then for sure you can charge a premium.
Right, Ernie?
Yeah, I think we have to be extremely careful here. We don't want to create a first and second class diamond. I think we're all on the same page. I think we all agree that traceability, provenance, telling the good story is a thing of the future. It's a must. We can't get away from it, and I think we've all embraced it. My biggest problem is this, is how do we empower each and every one of our members, all these sitting around us here, around the world, how do we give them the same ability as you get a selected supply from Namibia, as your customers get a selected supply from the Russian mines, as your customers who can afford to buy the Sharon machine. What we need to do, we as a World Federation, is make sure each and every one of us can do the same thing so that we all have the same competitive edge. And that's what we have to make sure happens.
Right. And I think it's important to point out that it's a process and it's a journey that the industry is on. And we're at the beginning stages of this industry. We are limited with time, but I would like to ask one last question because we are in Israel, and Ofer, we've spoken privately about Israel's role in bringing innovation to the world. It's known as the startup nation. What role can Israel play in furthering this discussion?
Yes, Avi. So, as I mentioned before, we perceive ourselves as the startup nation, and no doubt also that Israel is one of the 4 or 5 leading centers of diamonds in the world. And certainly we do have very innovative companies, and surely we have over here Sarin, it's one of the companies, but I still believe that the potential is far from being reached, and I do believe that eventually we will reach it. So I think that the issue that Israel must play a role is the issue also, of course, it has to deal also with traceability and well, mainly traceability. There is the issue of fintech, because as we know, the companies over here, and I think this is a worldwide phenomenon, we do have a problem of credit. We do know what happened to India, and I know that in Israel, when the banks want to give credit, of course, it's a very severe issue about the traceability and the provenance to make sure where are the diamonds that when you're giving the credit. So since this is a problem, and I know that we already have few fintech companies over here in Israel that are connecting this issue of traceability to the issues of credit. And if the banks will know about the provenance and the traceability, it will be much easier for the diamonds sellers to get the credit. I know that already in Israel we have few very innovative companies that are playing on this field. And I believe that this is indeed, since Israel is playing an important role in cyber, in fintech, also in blockchain, I believe that eventually this will be, I hope this will be the positive step forward that Israel will be able to contribute to.
Thank you, and I think you hit on a lot of important points that source verification brings to our industry. It's not only giving consumers confidence to buy diamonds, and we've seen the big brands such as Tiffany & Co. and LVMH and Richemont, Cartier, Van Cleef, the list goes on, adopting the country of origin programs in their selling. But it also brings confidence to the trade and the service providers to the trade as well, such most notably, I would say, being the lenders to the trade. And I would imagine Ernie also in the Bourses' role as in its arbitration role, that it would have some tremendous added benefits to that. So I think there's a lot to look forward to. I think this is going to be, as we put as we write about synthetics a lot, and we get asked about synthetics a lot in our news coverage, but I really think that 2020, this issue of source verification and how it develops and really has an impact on our industry is going to be a key topic that evolves throughout the year. So I want to thank our panelists for joining us. It's been an engaging and interesting discussion. And thank you all for listening and participating with us.